Today, we're talking about some of the hitters with the biggest gain in their hard hit rate this season and how that is turning into fantasy baseball profit.
It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
What's going on, everybody? You are tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. My name is Matt. Got this awesome co-host Kyle here with me today. And like I said, we're taking a look at some hitters who have upped their hard hit game, in turn have upped their ex-WOBA, and they're giving you some profit in your draft picks. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic as usual. Different topic not totally different topic for us, but want to talk about some some hitters. Last week we were pretty much all 100% talking about pitchers on Tuesday and Thursday. So nice to get into this again. The first guy on the list here, he had a hard hit rate of 54% last year, and somehow he's even higher this season. Talking about Shohei Ohtani of the Dodgers.
That's right. Shohei Ohtani, everybody's favorite Japanese import. This season, he has been nothing short of amazing. That hard hit rate, he upped it over 6.5% to 60.8%, which is second in baseball only to Aaron Judge. His ex-WOBA is up to 484, which is the best mark in the league. On the season, he's hitting 353, first in the league. He's got a 423 on base, a 658 slug, first in the league, a 1080 OPS. Guess what? First in the league. How about his 13 home runs? Is that leading as well? You damn right it is. He's driven in 33. To go with those 13 home runs, he's got 16 doubles, 66 hits overall. Again, first in the league. He's scored 36 times, and he's even swiped 11 bags. This cat is on pace for the first ever 45 home run, 35 stolen base, and 100 RBI season. And that's something I had to double check because I thought for sure that was something that maybe Barry Bonds pulled off. But nope. He's being more patient early in the count this year. His 32.2% first pitch swing rate is his lowest in a full season since his rookie year. His overall swing rate is sitting at 45.5%, lowest mark of his career and a couple points below league average. All that, though, he's still seeing the same number of pitches per at-bat, about 4.5. Dig this, though. Despite the more patient approach at the plate, his walk rate is down 4.5 points to 10.7. It's still above average, though. He cut his strikeout rate. He's now under 20%. He'd been right around league average the past few years. His first pitch strike rate sits at 55.1%, 7 points below league average. But quite frankly, getting ahead early in the count hasn't really mattered all that much because this guy is hitting 348 with a 390 on base and a 951 OPS with 4 home runs and driven in 12 after an 0-1 count. That shit is crazy. His StatCast, all I can say is, wow, he tops the list in all expected stats. The quality of his contact is absolutely unreal. 119.2 mile an hour max EV, third in baseball. A 94.7 average EV, fifth in baseball. He's hit 90 balls, 95 miles an hour or more, second in baseball. He's got 32 barrels and a 21.5% barrel rate. Guess what? Second in baseball. Now, he does have a 393 BABIP that's going to come down, but 2020 was his only season with a BABIP below 300. His overall contact is sitting at 77%. That's right at average, but it's also the best mark of his career. His zone contact rate of 82.8%, also the best of his career, but it's a little below average. And look, he's not going to be first in the league and everything, right? But we're seeing this improvement from him, incremental improvement, and that is being played out in what he is giving you this year. His line drive rate, insanely good. 31 point. Yeah. Second in Major League Baseball. His ground ball rate, a career low, 35.1%. His fly ball rate at 33.8, which is in line with his career average, but his 43.2% pull rate, the highest since 2021. And look, this dude has always been a pull hitter. He can hit the ball out of any ballpark in baseball. And that is part of the reason why he is the number 2 overall hitter in Yahoo this season in both total points and points per game. If you drafted Ohtani, snake draft, auction, it doesn't matter. You are getting more than your money's worth. And quite frankly, I've got some regrets of not getting him myself. Look, hands up. I was completely wrong about how he was going to do this season. I looked at what Bryce Harper did last year, recovering from a similar injury, and fully expected that he would get off to a slow start. Did not imagine this happening at all. And those of you who are lucky enough to have him rostered, you're reaping the rewards.
Absolutely.
So the next player might surprise some of you, but Kyle's been paying attention to this dude for a while now.
Yeah. Talking about catcher William Contreras with the Brewers. Just amazing. I drafted him. I'm in just 2 leagues this year, and I drafted him in both leagues. With the auction league, he was just $13, and I think is a very fair price for him. He has increased his hard hit rate year over year by almost 10%, 9.8, and a nice xWOBA increase as well of 44 points. His xWOBA this year is at 379. He's in the top 10% of the league there. Dude is the number 1 catcher in fantasy baseball right now. He's, depending on your league, the 5th or 6th overall player in the majors in fantasy. It's insane. 47 games played. He's got 13 doubles this year, tied for 6th in the lead, 1 triple, 7 home runs, 37 RBIs, tied for 4th in the league, 40 runs, tied for 2nd in the majors, and 3 stolen bases. A catcher getting you 3 stolen bases, I'll take all day long. Slash line, excellent. 332, 407 on base, 524 slugging for a 931 OPS. This batting average, 2nd in the league, on base, 5th in the league, slugging is 12th in the league, and his OPS is 7th in the league. Strikeout rate is at 19.6, above average. He has improved just 1% on that over last year. Any improvements on that for sluggers like him is always welcome. Walk rate is above average as well at 10.7. His BABIP, he's having some luck with that BABIP. He's at 393. That's almost 100, pretty much 100 points higher than league average. But looking at his career, he's kind of been a player that can support a higher BABIP. So it'll come down a bit, but I think it'll still be above average. Expected stats, expected batting average, expected slugging, his exit velo, his bat speed are all in the top 15% in the majors and are all up year over year. Ground ball rate is high. He's 50.7%. He's 6% higher than league average. And in a corresponding move, his line drive and his fly ball rate are below average. His launch angle is just 4.5 degrees worse than league average, but it doesn't really affect him like the average hitter, because with those hard hit rate and his exit velo numbers, he's just blasting ground balls past all these infielders there. They don't even have a chance. And he's doing this all with less than average contact numbers, which is a little bit of an anomaly. I think his aggressiveness this season is something that's really helped him. His first pitch swing percentage is up by a whopping 7.8% year over year. So far, he's been playing at an MVP level this year. Just every time I check my team, he's always scoring points, He's never, it's just amazing at how good he is. And the added premium for him is his value is even better because he plays every day. He's in the lineup every day, whether it's behind the plate or at DH. He's 26 years old. He is going to be a top fantasy catcher for the foreseeable future. And we should be used to hearing his name in fantasy conversations going forward. Guy is a beast. Next up, we got a guy. No one really saw this coming, right? I think he's 31 years old. He's the number 4 fantasy outfielder and the number 13th overall fantasy player. That's right. I'm talking about Padres outfielder Jurickson Bartholomew Profar.
Yeah, he's been something else this year. And those of you that have been playing fantasy baseball for a while, this name is not going to be strange to you at all. What is strange is seeing him perform to the level that he has, right? His hard hit rate is up 9 points to 40.7%. He's boosted his ex-WOBA 67 points to 373. That hard hit rate is the highest of his career by a lot. 6.5%. On the year, hitting 335 with a 422 on base, 522 slug. That gives you a 944 OPS, 10th in baseball. He's got 7 home runs. He's driven in 31. He's chipped in 9 doubles, scored 27 times, and he has just 3 more strikeouts than he does walks. Now, all those triple slash stats are running about 100 points over his career average. So, yeah, he may come back to earth a little bit, but we are talking about a dude that's failed to reach base in only 5 games. He's always had a good eye at the plate. His ratios are outstanding. He's got a 12.8% walk rate, which is up 3 points. His 14.4% strikeout rate is down 3 points. And he's giving you decent contact quality. That, we talked about the hard hit rate at just under 41. That's about average. His 90.3 mile an hour EV is top third. 6.7% barrel rate is a little bit below, but not terrible. And that 90.3 exit velocity is up 3 miles an hour from last year. Now, he's shown you he can hit 20 home runs, but he's not done it since 2019. So we don't necessarily know that that's in the cards for him this year, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. His overall contact rate comes in at 82.5%, a little above average, and his 91.6 zone contact rate is well above average. And he is rocking a career best 26.5% line drive rate, a career low 39.4% ground ball rate, and his fly ball rate coming in at just over 34% is in line with his career averages. His whiff and chase rate are both in the top 20%. He's getting ahead early in the count. 54% first pitch strike rate. He's a former number 1 prospect that's only played 140 games twice, but you look at what he's done this season and what he's given you, and you want to talk about value. This guy had an ADP of 716. And for those of you that don't want to do the math, I did it for you. That comes in as a 59th round pick. If you are in a fantasy or baseball league where you are still drafting in the 59th round, holy shit.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you drafted him, though, and it sounds like about 99% of you out there didn't, you can't be anything but thrilled with this return.
Absolutely.
However, Profar isn't the only member of the Padres that's seen his fortunes at the plate turn around this season. Let's talk about his teammate, Jake Cronenworth.
Yep, Jake Cronenworth, dual eligible at first and second. He pretty much just plays at first now. Second's from kind of left over from last year. Off to a great start this season. He's the number 8 fantasy first baseman in most leagues. And more importantly, he is just batting at some efficient levels again this season. Dude had a down year in 23 after being an all-star in 21 and 22. I'm not sure if it was related to his position switch last year from second to first. We'll see. Came into spring training in the offseason. He did some tweaking on his hitting mechanics, and he showed up to spring training this year with a bulked up frame, added on about 9 or 10 pounds, and it has paid off so far. His hard hit rate, he's up 7.1 year over year, and XWOB was up 53 points as well to 358. He's played 46 games, so pretty much all of them. 10 doubles, 1 triple, 8 home runs. He's got 32 RBIs, 22 runs scored, and tossing a stolen base as well. Slash line, it's pretty good. 270, 340 on base percentage, a 472 slugging for an 812 OPS. Does great, not striking out, just 17.7% of the time, and he has improved that just over 1% from last year. And walk rate, 8.9, above average just slightly, and he's flat on that with last year. BABIP, boom, right on the nose too with average at 294. So he's doing it all on his own, kind of. Statcast, it's pretty amazing. He's above average in all, with many in the top 25% or better, including expected batting average, expected slugging, barrels, chase, and whiff rate. The only thing he's below on average is his bat speed. And that's something we'll dive into hopefully in next week or the week after, some of that new bat tracking data that came out from MLB last week. I love his consistent ability to put the ball in play. You look at his spray chart, he kind of really spreads it all over, as he has just a pretty average pull percentage. But now when he hits homers, all 8 of them, did he have 8? Crap. Yeah, all 8 of them have went to right field this season. Looking at some more batted balls, 4% lower than an average in ground ball rate. More of a fly ball line drive guy. They're all both above average. He's really always had great contact skills. This year, he's swinging at more pitches in the zone. He's 6% higher than his career, and he makes excellent contact in the zone, almost 90%. That's 8% better than league average. And looking back at some of his past seasons, he's just more aggressive than ever at this point in his career, swinging at first pitches thrown at over 25% of the time, a nice 5% improvement over his career norms. On a personal note, I had him as a waiver pickup real early in the season. I kind of was churning over the util spot a little bit there early season, and I started him 1 week and I benched him the next week, and then I dropped him because I just didn't see him continuing this hot run. Boy, was I wrong. I was definitely wrong. All right, we spoke about the number 1 catcher in fantasy. Now let's talk about the number 2 catcher in fantasy. He sports the 7th best slugging percentage among qualified hitters this year. Talking about Royals, Salvador Perez.
And Sal Perez, he's almost like an enigma, right? Because, he puts up 40 home runs a couple of years ago, but he's also old,
33, 34. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, that's like, catcher years are like dog years.
Sure.
But still, you look at what he's doing. He's got an 8.6 point increase to his hard hit rate. That's up to 52.6%. His xWOBA is up almost 100 points to 421. That is the 4th biggest jump in the league this year. And so far on the season, he's hitting 337 with a 402 on base, a 548 slug, like Kyle mentioned earlier, giving him a 950 OPS. He's got 9 home runs now, 11 doubles, 18 runs scored. He's appeared in 47 of 49 games so far. And kudos to him. He's recently discovered that walking is an option when he goes to the plate. He's got a career high 7.6% walk rate, which is more than double his career average. And he cut down on his strikeout rate. And I think this is the most impressive stat that I've discovered about him. His strikeout rate is down 8.5 points to just 15.8%, his lowest since 2015. Now, his swinging strike rate is still high at 13%, but that's down from 17% last year. And his whiff rate, middle of the road at 23.4. Chase rate, bottom 2%, though. And he is who he is. He swings at damn near everything. And to his credit, he's a good bad ball hitter. The quality of his contact is outstanding. We talked about the hard hit rate that's in the top 7%. His 16.1% barrel rate is in the top 5% of the league, and his 92.6 mile an hour exit velocity is top 9%. You squish all that together and you come out with a 372 BABIP. It's going to come down, folks. Like, Sal Perez is not a 300 hitter. He's not a 400 on base guy, but still you're loving the returns. And you look at his expected stats, and those are even better. He's top 3% in xWOBA, expected batting average, and expected slugging. And kudos to him. He's increased his contact rate each of the last 3 seasons, it's up to 77.7% right now, which is right around league average and in his career averages. But it's a gain of 6% from last year. And he's carrying above average zone contact rate at 87.9% for the first time since 2018. But that's even more impressive because he's swinging is 78% of the pitches in the zone, which ties a career high and is 10th in all of baseball. His fly ball rate's up 5 points so far to 45.3%, and his pull rate's up 10 points to 53%, fourth most among qualified hitters. But hitters that have a profile like that are prone to slumps. You look at what he did in April. He was on a 38 home run, 140 RBI pace. And in May, he has just 2 home runs. He sent one to the moon yesterday against the Tigers. Prior to that, his only other home run in May came all the way back on the 3rd. But he's a number 5 first baseman. He's a top 3 catcher. He has, I don't necessarily know that I want to call it a career renaissance, but dude has showed up for you in the first 6 weeks of the season. You've got to be thrilled about that.
Absolutely.
You know, breakouts at 30 are rare, but they're not impossible, right? And we've got a former 26th round pick from Hawaii that may be proving just that.
We're talking about Josh Rojas with the Seattle Mariners. I think he should be a little bit higher owned, but we'll see. He's only 22% on Yahoo. Dual eligible at 2nd and 3rd. Hard hit rate, 10.5% increase over last year from 28.9 all the way up to 39.4. Huge increase. XwOBA also up 65 points, is at 343 on the year. He's played 38 games this year. Just 4 doubles, 2 triples, 3 homers, 9 ribbies, 12 runs, 4 stolen bases. Slashing 291. If you remember when we talked about him last week, he was well over 300. And now he's already below 300 at 291. On base percentage is great at 362, slugging 425. So an OPS of 787. Above average strikeout rate at 19.6. Like to see that. Also above average walk rate as well. Got a good eye at the plate. Does a great job of laying off pitches out of the zone with that top 10% chase rate. Is above average in whiff percentage too at 21.8. Does have a problem whiffing on breaking balls at over 34%. But hey, so do a lot of guys. Hell, so do me included. Ground ball rate is good. He's definitely a fly ball line drive hitter. In fact, his line drive rate is almost 7% higher than league average, and his fly ball rate is over 4% higher than league average. He's just hit 3 home runs so far this year. With his above average fly ball rate, I'd look for a few more of those to come. In 105 games last season, he just hit 4. So he's 75% of the way to match last year. So, maybe he can get you 8 or 9, maybe 10. I'll just say 8 or 9 for now. Has just the 4 steals this year. I would like to see him get some more. Before the changes last year with the disengagements and the bigger bases, he did steal 23 bases for the Diamondbacks in 2022. He's not the fastest guy, but veteran guy, real smart on the base paths, real smart. That batting average I mentioned there, that 291, he's never finished higher in his career on the season. Anything higher than 269. So it's definitely going to be a stretch for him to keep up that high 290s, 300 batting average. Will sit versus lefties. OPS versus them is 545. Righties is much better at 912. He's a decent replacement guy here and there, if you're dealing with injuries on your team, but just really wanted to point out that, when your hard hit increases, 10% in a year, you got to take notice.
And one thing to keep in mind with him as well, he's hit all over the order this season, and he's mainly been leading off this past month, but JP Crawford is back, and so that may change.
That's true. So Next up, we have it was a shock that he was actually 72nd fantasy outfielder on the season. A guy that hit 10 dingers in 112 games last year and is already halfway there this season through 40 games. Talking about Jake Meyers with the Houston Astros.
Yeah, and I remember during draft season, it wasn't Jake Meyers everyone was talking about. It was Chas McCormick. And look where he is. I have no friggin' idea, but we're talking about Jake Meyers. Kudos to him. I know this is definitely going to be a career highlight. He's increased his WOBA 106 points, the most in baseball, to 389. His hard hit rate is up 16.8%, now sitting at a robust 44.7%. On the year, he's hitting 302 with a 368 on base and a 552 slug, giving him a 920 OPS. Went yard 5 times. He's driven in 18. He's got 5 doubles, and he's appeared in 39 of 48 games. The quality of his contact is better this year than anyone would have thought. A 92.2 mile an hour exit velocity, which puts him in the top 11% of the league, a 9.2% barrel rate, and again, the 44.7% hard hit rate are both in the top third of the league. Just to give you a frame of reference, last year, his hard hit rate was 27.9%, putting him in the bottom 5% of the league. His expected stats, expected batting average, xWOBA, and expected slugging are all in the top 10% of the league. He needs to work on his overall contact skills. He's sitting at just 70.2%, which is 7 points below average, but his zone contact rate is right at league average, with his zone swing rate a couple of points above. Chase rate leaves a bit to be desired at 28.9%. That's bottom third. And his 30.2% whiff rate is even worse, putting him in the bottom 20%. All that swing and miss is against breaking and off-speed stuff. And that's something we see time and again where younger or more inexperienced hitters have a hard time making that adjustment, because that leap from, AAA to the bigs or even AA to the big leagues is just so huge. Despite all that, he's done well at keeping his strikeouts in check, just 19.6%, which is a 6-point improvement from last year. Can't say the same for his walks, though. They're down a point to 6.5%. I like the line drive rate at 27%. That's up 10 points from last year. And he cut his ground ball rate to 31 or 35%. And his fly ball rate sitting at 37, just under 38. And he's a pull hitter. A 46.1% pull rate is in the top 20% of hitters with at least 90 at bats. 80% of his home runs and his doubles have been to the pull side. He's got excellent speed, but he doesn't really use it. And I think part of it is hitting in the towards the bottom of the lineup, playing a role. But he has warmed up since the calendar turned to May, hitting 391 with a 462 on base and an 1135 OPS. Couple home runs. He's driven in 10. He's got 3 doubles, a couple triples, and 2 steals. Outfielder 26 in Yahoo, coming in at just 9% rostered for some friggin' reason. This next dude might be.
Let's take a quick break here. James Coffey is in the chat here and has got a question here. In a redraft roto league, please advise the best starting pitcher to pick up on waivers: Pivetta, Kikuchi, Crochet, Stone, or Brian Wu. Man, in the short term, I'm thinking Crochet, or I'm either Crochet or Pivetta on this question myself.
Those are.
I like Crochet because of I like him better because, he might have that innings limit this year, but I like him better just because of the division he's in. Yeah,
and that doesn't play as much of a factor now that they've gone to more balanced schedules. But there are some rough offenses there in the AL Central. It's too bad he doesn't get to face the White Sox. Those are 5 great options. It really comes down to what you're looking for. If you need strikeouts, I think Pivetta, Kikuchi, and Crochet would be fantastic options. Stone isn't going to give you any
No.
of that. And quite frankly, I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the rotation as these Dodgers pitchers continue to get healthy. He's done fine. He's given you good ratios and he's gotten some wins. But really, with that lack of swing and miss, I think he's due for some regression there. If you were looking for more ratios, I think Brian Wu is fantastic because we all know those pitchers there in Seattle don't really walk anybody.
Yeah. Great question. Great question, James. Hopefully we helped you out with that. It's a nice set of pitchers.
Appreciate you coming back.
It's a nice group to pick from, though. It is.
Yes, it is. This next dude, he is probably the most underrated first baseman in all of fantasy baseball, and he's turning in another top 10 season so far.
Yes, he is. We're talking about Christian Walker with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Highly owned, 97%, and rightly so. Number 8 fantasy first baseman so far. He's got a nice increase on his hard hit rate year over year by 5.7%, and the xWOBA is up 39 points. His xWOBA was at 378. It's good for top 11% among hitters in the league. On the year, he's got 5 doubles, 8 homers. You like to see that. 30 ribbies, 30 runs. You'll love to see that. And 1 stolen base as well. He's slashing 251, 354, 421 for a 775 OPS. That 354 on base percentage is currently the highest in his career, which is great, but it has cost him a little bit of power there. His slugging percentage is about 40 points lower than his career norms. Strikeout rate is 23.3. It's below average, about 1% or so. But he's always been right in the high teens, 19, 20, 21, 22 throughout his career. Walk rate is excellent. He's at 13.1%. He's in the top 10% among hitters in the league. And he's improved it 3.5% from last year. BABIP is right on the nose there with average of 292. So we talked about that increase in his hard hit rate being awesome. He's also up year over year in exit velocity, barrel rate, which is up by 4.2%. He's at 15.6%. He's top 6% in the league. And that sweet spot percentage is up 2 year over year by 2.5%. Batted ball profile, fly ball, line drive rates, they're really all in line with his career norms. He's never really been much of a ground ball hitter. He does his damage through the air with fly balls because he's the last 2 years he's had 33 and 36 home runs respectively. And he's on pace for another 30 again this season, just what you would expect from a cleanup hitter. If you drafted him in fantasy this year, you probably got a good discount on him versus the, more premier first baseman in the league. You're loving your decision this year. He's 33. He's entering that age where things start to kind of fall off for some hitters, but it's just not the case for him this season. Although, like I said, that slugging is down a bit, but I'll take some of that trade if your on base percentage is excellent like his is. I love his consistent ability to drive in runs and score. It continues to make him a valuable asset in fantasy lineups, and especially if you're in roto formats that kind of reward power hitting. I like him very much.
He is awesome.
Sorry. I was trying to look at comments and forgot what I was doing. Okay. I had this guy last season on 2 of my teams where he finished, I think he was mid-30s, best fantasy hitter last year, 35, 36, 37. I just didn't see him, repeating that again this year. So I shied away from him in draft season, as I believe Matt did too when we've had some discussions. Both of us were wrong. We're talking about the number 10 fantasy batter this year, Marcell Ozuna with the Braves.
Yes, he has been fantastic. Cooled down a little bit this month, but still, you have absolutely nothing to complain about when it comes to him. Hard hit rate is up 6.5 points to 55.4%, which is tied for 10th. And he's got the 4th best xWOBA at 452. On the season, and this is coming into the week, he's hitting 327, a 405 on base, 642 slug, a monstrous 1,047 OPS, leading the league in home runs with 14, leading the league in RBIs with 43, 9 doubles. He's scored 27 times. He's actually got more RBIs than strikeouts so far this year. And with a hitter like this, that's something you really, really love to see. StatCast, absolutely amazing. The xWOBA we talked about, that's in the top 1%. His expected batting average is in the top 1%. His expected slugging is in the top 1%. And the quality of his contact, equally awesome. He's got a 93 mile an hour exit velocity. It puts him in the top 20, a 17.4% barrel rate that's tied for 8th, and that 55.4% hard hit rate tied for 11th. That's giving him a 364 BABIP. Overall contact, though, it's a little bit of a different story here. Contact rate at just 70.7% is quite low, and that's even 4 points below his career average. His zone contact is a little bit better at 81%, but still below league and career averages. However, he's swinging at pitches in the zone at a career high 76.7% rate. His strikeout rate overall sits right around league average at 22.7%, as is his chase rate at 27.3%. The whiff rate of 31.5%, swinging strike rate over 14% are both quite high. He's somebody who's carried a roughly average walk rate throughout his career, but he's upped it to 11.4% this season, which would be a full season career high. He's much more of a fly ball hitter at this point in his career. His 41.3% fly ball rate is the second highest of his career, and he's pulling the ball at over a 45% clip. However, only 5 of his home runs have been pulled, and roughly half of his doubles. So he's somebody who he has power to all fields, and that's when you know this is somebody who can mash. He can hit it out of any ballpark anywhere on this planet. He hits in the middle of the lineup, but he has moved up to third in Austin Riley's absence. As somebody who got burned by Riley last week, not playing, and you know, the Braves just saying, we're going to let him go. And the same, you know, with Nico Horner, looking at you, Cubs, even though he's back in the lineup today. Thanks for just completely dad dicking me last week and causing me some trouble. And now I'm off track.
You would have lost anyway. It didn't matter if you had him or not. You still lost.
Look, this dude, he's a top 10 hitter in Yahoo. You know, like I said, he's cooled off a bit this month, but you know, you're not really going to expect him to keep up the pace that he was at to begin with. He has been fantastic. It is a Braves lineup that hasn't necessarily lived up to expectations to this point in the season. There's some dudes who have struggled there, but as the weather warms up, and we know how hot and humid those summer nights get down there in Atlanta, the ball is going to be flying out of whatever the hell that park is called. And I think Ozuna is going to be there leading that charge. If you get somebody who will sell him to you, I would look to acquire him and maybe reference that he's cooled off a bit this month and see if you can negotiate. I know if I had Ozuna, he's not going anywhere, but you never know. You know, people are strange.
They are. We got James back in the chat. Quick question.
What's up, James?
In my Roto League, I do not have a RP on my roster. I max out at 10 starting pitchers: Flaherty, Kirby, Castillo, Grayson, Miller, Webb, Jones, Skeens, Gray, Chris Sale. Bad strategy. I know in points leagues, I'm not a big reliever user, but Roto's a different story.
It is. I don't necessarily know that I'm ever really a fan of punting categories like that, and understand you're not going to sweep them all. Right. You know, I look to bulk up on 7 categories, and I just want to be competitive in the other 3. If you are completely punting saves, you've got to nail everything else. Now, you have an amazing rotation, James, an absolutely amazing rotation. And so I don't necessarily want to say this is a bad strategy. It may not be the strategy that I would have taken, but you can certainly be successful this way. And a great way to start is to have a staff like you've got.
Yeah.
And as you are able over the course of the season, maybe you are you're banking strikeouts in your ratios absolutely have to look good, because how can they not with this staff? Then maybe you can trade one or two of these guys and help your team elsewhere. And even if you only go up from maybe, I don't know, 9th to 6th in saves, that can be the difference at the end of the year.
Sure could. Excellent. Thanks for the question, James. Hope we helped you out there. Really, really like that. Who we got next?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have this cat last year, and this dude was an on-base machine for me. I remember when I picked him up at the time, and it was almost midway through the season. The dude had more walks than strikeouts.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you guys, I love our audience. I didn't even know who the hell he was, but we certainly do this year, and he's getting on base even more.
He sure is. We're talking about LaMonte Wade Jr. with the San Francisco Giants, dual eligible at first and outfield. Guy was pretty much written off after he had, kind of an injury plagued season there in 22. He bounced back last year. Real nice to have a nice season. And this year it's even better. He's got a nice 6.5% increase in his hard hit rate. And his xWOBA is at 419 this year. That's excellent. He increased that 56 points over last year. In 46 games, he's got 36 hits, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 15 RBIs, 18 runs, and throw in a stolen base. He is slashing 321, 466, 420. That's insane. Okay. That is just insane. An OPS of 885. And as Matt mentioned at the top of his segment there, coming into the minor leagues with the Twins, he was just known for his uncanny ability to get on base. And he did it last year, and it continues this season too. He is number 1 in the league on an on-base percentage among all hitters with at least 140 plate appearances. Like, who is this guy? Ted frickin' Williams? Seriously. And walk rate, 20.5%. That is number 1 in the league among hitters with at least 140 plate appearances. I can't see too good there, Matt. Is that Barry Bonds we're talking about? I'm just amazed. 466 on base percentage. That's better than Betts. That's better than Acuna. That's better than Schwarber. That's just better than a lot of these guys that you constantly see at the top of the list. Since the beginning of the 2023 season, he's 8th in the majors with a 393 on base percentage. Just ridiculous. You know what else is equally ridiculous? His BABIP of 425. It's one of the highest in the league. It's ridiculous how well this guy is getting, yes, some lucky, but placing the ball where infielders and defenders are just not at. Strikeout rate is just slightly below average. He's at 21.9. Expected stats are all great, including that xWOBA I mentioned. Expected batting average, expected slugging, where he's in the top 15% or better. And his StatCast is so red, just look like blood dripping down the page. I mean, it's sick. He's well above average in pretty much everything except for that strikeout rate, where it's just barely. Sweet spot, chase rates, both rank in the top 2% in the majors. He's very much a line drive hitter. His line drive rate is 10% higher this season than the majors. It's crazy. Last year, pretty much let off in most games. This year, he finds himself anywhere, usually in the 2-hole, sometimes the 3-hole in the order. I like this. He's on pace for his highest RB careers totals ever. And, I think he's one of the best left-handed hitters in the league. And when he was platooning, that's a thing of the past. He is out there in the lineup every day, whether it's at first base. Occasionally you'll see him in left or right field, and a couple DH as well. His incredible start to the season is just something that wanted to make me, for this episode and some other research, I wanted to keep digging and looking for some issues. I'll clue you in. There really isn't any. Here's some data. He doesn't make a lot of bad swing decisions. And when he does decide to swing, he's got one of the quickest and shortest swings around. It's a combination to believe in.
He's a shiz.
He is.
And one thing, and I was just kind of looking into him that I noticed is just the year over year improvement in not only his hard hit rate, but his overall quality of contact. He made strides this year.
He did. All right. Next up, we got a shortstop. This is a guy plays every day. He's in an everyday role. He's on pace for 20 steals, and he is the number 7th shortstop in fantasy to date. Talking about Jeremy Pena of the Houston Astros.
Yes, and this dude is kind of going under the radar simply because Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman have absolutely been on fire. But he's somebody who is up to his WOBA by almost, or ex-WOBA by almost 50 points to 348. His hard hit rate is up 6 points to a healthy 41.8%. And on the year, he's batting 326 with a 365 on base, a 457 slug, giving you an 822 OPS. He's gone yard 5 times. He's driven in 20. He leads the AL with 60 hits. He's scored 30 times, and he's chipped in 7 stolen bases. They moved him to the middle of the order in mid-April. And since then, all he's done is give you 36 hits, score 21 runs, knock 3 out of the park, drive in 12, and steal 5, hitting 316, getting on base 35% of the time with an 814 OPS. And I know coming into the year, Jeremy Pena and middle of the order bat were not really said in the same sentence a whole hell of a lot. His hard contact is seeing nice improvement. We talked about his hard hit rate. His exit velocity is up almost 2 miles an hour to 89.6. The barrel rate, not great, just 3.8%, but that's heavily influenced by his 46.2% ground ball rate. However, that ground ball rate is actually down year over year, and both his fly ball rate and line drive rate are up a few points. Fly ball rate coming in just under 30%, and his line drive rate just over 24%. His overall contact is very solid at 78.5%, but he really shines with his zone contact rate. Dude is making contact 93% of the time. That comes in 13th of 162 qualified batters this season. And he's made great strides in his strikeout rate as well. That's down 7 points to 13.7%, putting him squarely in the top 7% of the league. However, chase rate is very high. 36.4%, bottom 10% of the league. His whiff rate is a little bit better than average at 23.2%. Swinging strike rate's fine at 11.5%. I wish he would walk more, right? But his walk rate's down a couple points to 4.1%. His expected stats, outstanding. His expected batting average of 316 is in the top 3%. We talked about his ex-WOBA a little bit earlier. His expected slugging at 442. That and the ex-WOBA are both top third of the league. I would also like to see him run a little bit more and do a little more work on the base paths, considering he's got top 3% sprint speed. Dude can fly. But when you're in a middle of the order bat, you don't run as much. And typically, because the archetype of that player is not one that steals bases. Like we all know back in the day, Mike Trout used to steal, and good for him. And now, years later, he can't keep his ass on the field for more than about 80 games. It's just not something middle of the order bats are typically asked to do. But Jeremy Pena is not a typical middle of the order bat. Overall, he's given you a great rebound from his sophomore slump. He gave you 20 home runs his rookie season, and then he did, pretty much nothing last year, giving you that good rebound here. He's a top 10 shortstop on the season, but he is the 3rd shortstop since May 1st.
Yeah. Excellent.
Jeremy Pena, no hype coming into the year. But there was a Rockies outfielder that got all kind of hype coming into the season. I fell for it. I know some other dudes did. But guess what? There's another second-year Rockies outfielder who's actually delivering.
Yes, we're talking about Brenton Doyle. Just 60% owned. It's too low for me. You've likely seen this guy be a waiver target a dozen times or more this year already. It seems like every time I'm putting a list together, he's always there. And we don't ever really talk about him, but he's had a nice increase in his hard hit rate, almost 8%. He's at 42.9 this year and 59-point increase in his ex-WOBA. Played in 44 games this year, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs. You like those extra base hits, 13 ribbies. He's scored 29 times and given you 9 stolen bases. He's slashing 273, 331, 447 for a 779 OPS. His strikeout rate is high. It's at 29.2. It's below average. He's in the bottom 14% of the league, but he was at 35% last year. So I respect that 6% improvement year over year. Walk rate's just a little bit below average at 7.3, but did improve that over 2% from last year as well. Above average BABIP of 375. StatCast pretty average, pretty much hovers slightly below to slightly above average in most categories. I mentioned his nice hard hit rate, but he is below average in exit velocity while above average in barrel rate. Sweet spot is excellent. 38.4 does rank in the top 20%, and he's up 8.5% on that. He is pretty good. Chase rate, his rate is pretty good. There's not much of a chaser there, which is a good thing for him because when he does chase, he makes contact just 35% of the time. That is a full, that is a full 22% worse than league. When I looked at it, I'm like, what the? Not good. With the 9 steals I mentioned at the top of the segment, dude is fast. Sprint speed ranks in the top 7% in the league. So he had 22 last year, 9 on the year. He's already on pace to beat that by a bit. And he has just that terrific power speed combo. He hits for average and he plays his home games in really the best possible environment. So his consistent ability to get on base and score with them 29 runs, it's critical for your fantasy team, especially, you need reliable outfield production. His fantasy appeal is legit, likely a 2020 season on the way this year.
I can dig that.
Heck yeah. We got anything in the comments here?
Just talking a little trash, helping out James.
Did you? Oh, your answer his Diaz question?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, I think he's a good ad, just depending on who you got to drop.
Sure, why not? I mean, that's he got. I watched. It was Saturday against the Marlins. I think he didn't even make it through a third of an inning. Gave up 4 hits, 4 runs. It was ugly looking. Yeah. It was ugly looking. So the closer role, that thing's. It's a fluid situation there, probably for New York, and we'll see. Okay, real quick, guys. So we're doing fantasy baseball. We do fantasy football too. We just kept putting both videos on this channel, and that is just not working out for the YouTube algorithms. They're hating us right now. So we have went ahead and created a new channel for fantasy football. I'm going to pop it in the chat here.
I already did.
Oh, thanks, bud. And you can go on there. Please subscribe. We'll have regular, content on there throughout the summer, and then until we make the switch there, in September, and we're full fantasy football with some baseball going on too. But so this channel after tonight is going to be renamed just Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. The football one is simply just Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. There, I got it out. So just continue to support us on both channels. I know we grew this channel initially as football, and then we just kind of kept it and switched to baseball because we still wanted to keep talking about fantasy sports all year long. So awesome. So that's a wrap, folks. If you enjoyed learning about these hard hit rate increases, make sure to hit that like button harder than Shohei Ohtani smashes baseballs. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss us, because let's be real, who wouldn't want more fantasy baseball stats in their life? We'll see you Thursday for 2 start pitchers and waiver ads for week 10. Have a great evening, everyone. Stay stoned.
Mock Draft Live this weekend on the new channel. See ya.